Welcome to the IPA in the Community Awards ceremony. We are delighted to welcome you in congratulating the winners of these awards. The IPA in the Community Awards were created in 2019 to recognize the significant contribution of psychoanalysts working in the community and to raise awareness of the work of IPA members and candidates that are helping expand the reach of psychoanalysis. Along with the IPA Vice President Sergio Nick and the IPA community chairs, we received a high volume of outstanding projects, all of which deserve wider promotion and recognition.
Well, after the successful launch of the Community Awards in 2019, we continue to award a first and second prize to the two best projects that support the work of each of the IPA in the community areas. These include IPA in culture, IPA in education, IPA in health, IPA and humanitarian organizations, psychoanalysis and law, violence, and for the first time, the area IPA in climate. Additionally, a sub-area of COVID-19 was allocated for awards under the Health Committee. We would like to recognize all of the applicants who created projects and supported their communities during the unprecedented times of the ongoing pandemic. Thank you so much.
In addition to these awards, I also have the pleasure of announcing the IPA President's Award, which I selected as the overall best project from all the outstanding applications received. I would like now to begin presenting the President's Award to Catherine Frost, Tony Hamburger, and Sue Levy from the South African Psychoanalytic Association for their Ububele Baby Mat project, which was presented to the IPA and Humanitarian Organizations Committee. Catherine, I have the pleasure now to welcome you to speak further about your project and the award.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Very warm greetings from Johannesburg, South Africa in these tumultuous times. We here are currently in the grip of our third wave, with higher numbers of infections and deaths than in the previous two waves of COVID-19. So it is with pleasure to have some good news, and I'm thrilled to have received this award on behalf of the Ububele Educational and Psychotherapy Trust and the South African Psychoanalytic Association. Thank you, IPA, for recognizing us. Ububele was started by two psychoanalytic psychotherapists, Tony and Hilary Hamburger, over 20 years ago. They have both contributed to the start of Johannesburg's and South Africa's journey into psychoanalytic work, and with Mark Soames, Sue Levy, and others, the establishment of the South African Psychoanalytic Association. This award recognizes their and our work. It also represents some of our attempts to address the terrible struggles of South Africa's past, how the echoes of our past resonate in the present, and how our present calls on us to address what was left unacknowledged and unprocessed in our past. Our parent-infant interventions have as our central focus the power of early intervention work, of interrupting intergenerational transmission of trauma that is so endemic in our complex land. The Baby Mat project is the anchor of this parent-infant work, where our teams sit on the floor, on a mat, at busy primary healthcare clinics, where a space for thinking and observing and processing is provided. In a sense, the mat is an adjunct to the traditional practice of umdlezane, where the postnatal period is recognized as a time of vulnerability, a time of providing support, and where the centrality of attachment is recognized. This award is a fitting celebration of what has been achieved at Ububele. It's an actualization of what Tony and Hilary Hamburger dreamed of in the early 1990s, an organization that makes psychoanalytically informed work accessible in community settings and where the damage of our past can be addressed. Thank you once again for recognizing the value of our work.
Hello, my name is Vivian Elton. I'm the chair of the IPA and Humanitarian Organisations Committee. Our committee includes the Migrants and Refugees and the IPA and United Nations subcommittees. We've been very inspired to discover the work of our IPA colleagues in so many creative projects globally, assisting people who are in dire need in the community due to war, famine, poverty, violence, and climate disasters. In the last 3 years since our committee was established, we've created a database on the IPA website to hold a summary of the work in the humanitarian field of our members worldwide. Our intention is to share this work with colleagues so that those involved can connect to one another and so that the membership can learn some of the astounding work that is being done in this area. We hope that our members will be encouraged to join or engage in new projects. We have also developed a new website, soon to be advertised, called an Open Door Review of the IPA in the humanitarian field. And this will hold detailed descriptions of projects, writing, and research papers relevant to the work. We would like to encourage people to submit their thoughts, work, and ideas to this site. The link will be published shortly in the next IPA newsletter. We are currently writing a book called Trauma, Flight and Migration, Psychoanalytic Perspectives, which will hopefully be published in the new year. And in addition, we have presented seminars and panels at numerous conferences, both local and at the IPA conferences and webinars. In finishing, I would like to thank all the members of our committees, especially Gertrude Schlesinger-Kipp, Chair of Migrants and Refugees, Marianne Lutzinger-Boleba, previous Chair, Vivian Pender, who has been Chair of the IPA and the United Nations Committee for many years and is standing down from her role as Chair. We would also like to thank Johanna Mendoza Toledo, David Morgan, Juma Basak, who are also standing down. And especially we would like to thank Virginia Ungar, who conceived of and has supported our committee's work, and to Harriet Wolf, who continues to support its work. So I'd like to move on to present the first prize from our committee, which goes to a project called Developing Psychodynamic Research in the Area of Social Development in India. And where I would like to give the prize to Ananya Kuswaha, who will be accepting on behalf of her colleagues, Mahua Chatterjee, Bharti Jain, and Javed Ahmed. This is a very interesting project, and they've developed a centre called the Zeist Centre, which means the very essence of existence, which is very beautiful. And now I'd like to hand over to Anani to receive the prize and speak a little about your project. Thank you.
Dear Vivian. Dear colleagues and IPA team, the world we live in is changing fast. One can say that the speed has gripped us in a special way. There is a paradox, grip and speed. There was a first wave, second wave, then there are heat waves and hate waves. We are constantly in a state of overwhelm, as many countries are also politically undergoing crisis. As individuals, it seems like we are really small in the face of these big realities. Our inner psychic quests are tsunamied by these waves which have taken over the larger world. The zeitgeist of our times in which we are embedded is post-truth. We are losing a transitional space in our social lives. That special place which allows us to dream and have a sense of purpose. There is an increasing sense of urgency and yet futility in our collective fate. In the wake of these struggles, some of us, with our love for psychoanalysis and community, dreamed last year to come together to develop interventions and research, creating space for engaging with the unconscious dimension of the work with various community-based organizations in India. It started with the idea of research to study the need for psychoanalytic method to be woven into social work to counter the speed of illusory change, which failed to have a space for reflection on the essential aspect of the non-rational and unconscious subjectivity and non-linear agency of the welfare subject. Our efforts helped us build a non-profit organization called ZEAST, Center for Psychosocial Innovation. ZEAST means, as said earlier, essence of life and existence. Through this organization, we are developing engagement with the agents of change in the community, such as teachers and social workers, as well as institutions. The IPA award reinforced our faith and fueled our desire to keep going with this slow process of engagement, even when many organizations stress on quick solutions. We are thankful that IPA welcomed our dream project. This is just the beginning, but we are determined to keep going. Thank you.
I now have the pleasure of announcing the winner of the IPA in Climate area, which has been awarded to Sally Weintraub from the British Psychoanalytic Society for their work of psychoanalysis applied to the environmental crisis. Sally was first nominated for the award in 2019 for her valuable and essential work to the climate crisis, which prompted us to create the additional community area of the IPA in Climate, which Sally Weintraub now chairs. Sally, I am very pleased to now welcome you to speak further about your committee and award. Please, Sally.
Thank you, Sergio. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted that climate is now represented. I'd like to thank Virginia Ungar and IPA very much for this important development, you know, with such troubled times that we're living in, and with the climate and environmental emergency really now upon us. So thank you very much indeed. I'd like to start by talking about, I'm going to pull this up, our committee, our new committee. So I'm really delighted to speak to you as chair of the IPA Climate Committee, established in 2020, and to, as I say, fulsomely thank Virginia and IPA for including climate as a community committee. It makes all the difference to our committee to feel their work is supported by IPA. It supports colleagues also who are speaking and writing on the climate and environmental emergency to know that they have support from the top to pursue their work. It makes all the difference. And it also signals to others beyond our discipline that psychoanalysis takes the emergency very seriously. This at a time when many people are feeling anxious about climate, especially as we know young people who are and will be affected the most, because IPA is signaling that it recognizes this emergency and that it, importantly, that it affects mental health. As well as representatives from IPA regions who are on the committee, we also took a decision to have 2 extra co-opted members from the Global South. And this is really to reflect the uneven effects of climate and environment on the North and the Global South. So I want to mention just 3 areas of our current work. First, we are developing ideas on the relevance of psychoanalysis to understanding the climate emergency and on how it may affect both our work with patients and climate at large. And our focus is actually on the human climate and how this drives the physical climate derangement, and also vice versa, because a worsening physical climate will drive the derangement in human climate. So we are developing ideas. We're giving lots of talks, on we by we members of the committee, webinars in this last time of COVID, and writing papers, and we are planning a book to bring this work together. Secondly, we are working to slowly but surely embed the area of climate and the environment as an integral part of psychoanalytic trainings. And thirdly, I'll just mention that we have 2 IPA-funded research projects, one in the Himalayas and the other in Amazonas. These, of course, have been frustratingly halted by COVID. As people know, COVID has affected both India and Brazil very badly for all sorts of reasons. Both these projects will study the effects on local people of severe climate impacts that are already happening. And each will be led by a member of the Climate Committee. The one in the Himalayas will involve several people, but and also university contacts, but will be led by Pushpa Misra, and the project in Brazil by Maria Luisa Gastal. And as I said, COVID has halted these projects, but the thinking behind them is quite far developed already. Just in relation to this award, I'm very thankful to have this award from IPA. It means a great deal to me, gives me a huge boost in my work. And I just wanted briefly to thank Virginia and IPA for recognizing this work, and also providing such support through that recognition for this work. I also want to thank my own society, the British Psychoanalytic Society, who, for me personally and for the subject, provided a home in which there was a conference in 2010, which led to a book that's gained some traction, which I edited, called Engaging with Climate Change into Psychoanalytic and Interdisciplinary Perspectives. Many colleagues were involved in that book, and also it was structured as was the conference, as an interdisciplinary exchange. And that's also an important aspect of this. So I want to thank all the colleagues from other disciplines who've helped me develop ideas, because I think that we can't engage with this subject without becoming interdisciplinarians. I also, very briefly, I want to thank Harold Searles, you know, going back to 1972. I wish he was here. We could say, wish that this development had happened sooner, but for his marvelous writing on the environment, his psychoanalytic writing on the environment. So of course, this award is not just for me, but it's to recognize the burgeoning work on climate and the environment that we're starting to see now. You only have to pick up a journal and you will see papers on the environment, psychoanalytic journals, papers on the environment, on climate derangement. This, I think this will continue and burgeon further. So thank you very, very much, IPA.
Hi, I'm Cordelia Schmidt-Hellerau, and it has been my honor and pleasure to chair the IPA in Culture Committee during these past 4 years. Together with my colleagues from Europe, South and North America, our various activities have had one common focus, namely creativity. Creativity in its various forms is the foundation of every mental activity and a necessary element in our psychoanalytic work. The IPA in Culture Committee has been devoted to enhance learning about, experiencing, and stimulating creativity in its members and the community at large. We've applied ourselves to this task by drawing from the works of internationally renowned artists, writers, and performers, in short, all kinds of contributors to culture. And we have invited everybody we can to reach by email and with the IPA website to notice, engage in, and share their thoughts about cultural events. As part of our activities, we have organized over 50 international psychoanalytic discussion groups on art, literature, film, music, writing, sociology, philosophy, and anthropology. We have sent out a short film every month in 2020 and continue with sending out a little cultural gift every month this year, something by which you may be touched, intrigued, and stimulated. We have launched a short story competition for which we have received 250 submissions from 40 countries. An international jury of analysts, the members and consultants of the Culture Committee, selected 30 short stories, which have been published in a multilingual book called The Analyst as Storyteller, El Analista como Narrador. With these and similar projects, we wanted to make good use of the powerful potential of psychoanalysis to get deeper insights into the various dimensions and functions of our personal, social, and cultural life. We hope that you will visit the culture page on our website and explore for yourself the many opportunities you'll find to contribute to our ongoing international psychoanalytic conversation with colleagues all over the world. The IPA in Culture Committee has chosen for its first award Hidden Persuaders for its sophisticated and deep-reaching inquiry into various aspects of our social, political, and cultural contemporary life. We congratulate Daniel Pick, who is a member of the British Psychoanalytic Society, for this amazing initiative.
I would just like to say thank you very much indeed to the IPA for the award we've received for the Hidden Persuaders project, which has been really a kind of interdisciplinary project that has run at Birkbeck College, funded by the Wellcome Trust since 2014. It concerns the history of brainwashing and explores ideas about brainwashing and many other allied ideas that emerged to prominence in the Cold War. Brainwashing itself as a term was first coined in 1950. And the project explores the history of brainwashing, both real and imagined, the practices that have been conducted to shape, to destroy, to shape, to manipulate people's minds, but also the range of fantasies that there are about brainwashing in popular culture and in politics. And I hope that this theme will be of interest to colleagues here and abroad, and that the resources we've created on the Hidden Persuaders website at Birkbeck will be of use to people as a sort of foil for thinking, really about the problem of thinking, because it seems to me that the history of debate and popular culture and melodrama about brainwashing in the past has always been in a way shadowed by the question about what are the conditions that enable people to think or that damage or destroy people's capacity to think. And I hope that these resources will interest colleagues because in a way in parallel with the rich psychoanalytic literature on the mind and on distortions of mind, there was this sort of other range of work produced in the 1950s and afterwards that I think is very interesting to compare and contrast with psychoanalytic thought. So I hope it's of interest, and I thank you again warmly for this award.
Our second prize goes to Libros sobre el Tatami, Books on Tatami, a wonderful initiative which reaches into socially disadvantaged communities that usually have no access to psychoanalysis. It tries to pick up children in their early development. With awarding Cristina Nunes from the Rio de Janeiro Psychoanalytic Society our second prize, we want to give support and encouragement to this lovely project. Congratulations.
I'm deeply honored by the IPA's recognition and grateful to receive this award. In view of my never-ending search for a broader social role for psychoanalysis, I created the project Books on the Tatami Mat, with the idea of providing an underprivileged population access to psychoanalysis, opening potential space for them to produce creative adaptations to a space with so many difficulties. The meetings takes place at the Muay Thai Training Center within the Covanca and Rio das Pedras favelas in Rio de Janeiro, with the spontaneous participation of children and adolescents, where we sit and read carefully curated children's books and fables. The readings have become key to the meetings, grounded in a psychoanalytic way of viewing and listening to people. Each reading provides space for conversation, where they talk about their experiences and feelings, their adventures and misadventures. The project enables us to listen and make our psychoanalysis more alive and creative, guided by a community-based vision of a space that can create new possibilities for the production of meaning. Everyone has a story to tell, which extend far beyond those we hear about the favelas of Rio de Janeiro. Reading to them became reading with them, and a possibility to identify the creative potential of each one. Thank you.
I'm Harvey Schwartz. I'm the chair of the IPA and Health Committee. And as its name implies, our committee is about the interface between dynamic thinking, dynamic principles, and healthcare. We've had an active few years. We've started a Facebook page, which everyone is invited to join. It's called IPA and Health. But the best way to describe what our work has been is to tell you about a book we have coming out. It's called Applying Psychoanalysis to Medical Care. It's the first in a book series, the IPA in the Community book series that we've started with the helpful encouragement of Virginia Unger. And the chapters in this book really tell you about our work. We have chapters on psycho-oncology, working with cancer patients. We have chapters on addiction, on working with dying patients, working with patients with dermatologic conditions, with eating disorders, inpatient pediatric care, and Ballant groups, which as many know are groups for general medical doctors to have a place to process their emotional reaction to their evocative patients. We have two winners of this year's award. The first is a program called L'chol Nefesh project. It's intensive dynamic psychotherapy in public mental health services for children, adolescents, and adults. The winners are Talia Fruhoff and Ilan Amir, who I will introduce in a moment. Just to tell you something about this program, it's really quite remarkable. The best way that I can summarize it, Ilan will tell us further, is that it welcomes people who have any psychiatric diagnosis and have been through any kind of treatment possible. All they have to do to get into this program is to commit to join and stay with the program. And their results are nothing short of stunning. Note their results because they carefully monitor their results. They do outcome studies, which is more and more essential for all the programs that we appreciate and value. For example, for the 5 years prior to the program, the individuals had 1,600 days of hospitalizations. 4 years into the program, they had 50 days, from 1,600 to 50 days. Excuse me, a remarkable change. In addition to this, they are also training therapists. So without further ado, let me invite the winner of the award, Ilan Amir, to accept it for L'chol Nefesh.
Thank you, Harvey. Hello from Tel Aviv, Israel. My name is Dr. Ilan Amir, and I'm the head of the L'chol Nefesh project. First, I would like to thank the chair and members of the IPA in Health Committee for choosing the L'chol Nefesh project as an appropriate project eligible for the IPA Community Award. Second, I would like to thank the more than 100 dear friends and colleagues who volunteered for many years in the project. Without them, this unique project could not have come true. The L'chol Nefesh, which means for every soul in Hebrew, nonprofit organization, was established in 2008 by a group of members of the Israeli Psychoanalytic Society. In 2010, has initiated the L'chol Nefesh project, a unique psychotherapeutic program offering long-term, intensive psychoanalytic psychotherapy in specialized units within public mental health centers. The patients treated in the program receive 2 to 3 psychotherapeutic sessions a week for a period of at least 3 years. The professional guidance of these units, namely the running of the clinical and theoretical seminars, as well as the provision of individual supervision, is provided on a volunteer basis by 100 psychoanalysts, members of the Israeli Psychoanalytic Society and the Tel Aviv Institute for Contemporary Psychoanalysis. Patients treated in these units participate in an evaluative research which examines the effects of the psychotherapy on their emotional state. The research results indicate that this unique type of therapy offers these patients a real chance to break out of a life cycle of illness, repeated hospitalizations, despair, and non-functioning. Based on our experience, we have found that the most significant and important prognostic factors for the success of the psychotherapy is the patient's capacity to attend psychotherapy sessions regularly and consistently. Over the years, we have come to regard the psychotherapy provided by the units as a type of psychodialysis. It allows patients struggling with chronic mental and emotional insufficiency to get rid of the emotional toxins that they could not expel autonomously. Consequently, we have found an attempt to activate the psychodialytic function of psychoanalytic psychotherapy. For the public mental health centers and the health insurance companies, the most significant result of the L'chol Nefesh project was clearly the halting of the revolving door of repeated hospitalizations common to many of the patients participating in the project. Due to the results of the research, and particularly to the massive reduction in hospitalization days, like Harvey said, it has become possible to expand both the number of the units and the number of patients in treatment within the framework of the L'chol Nefesh project. The project opened in 2010 with one pilot unit treating approximately 20 patients. And today there are 6 active units treating approximately 100 patients between the ages of 4 to 70 years. Thus, we have succeeded in establishing long-term intensive psychoanalytic psychotherapy given within our specialized units as a legitimate and valuable treatment modality within the public mental health services in Israel. Thank you very much.
The runner-up winner of this year's IPA in Health Award is the Multicultural Center for Parent-Infant Psychotherapy in Yafo, Israel. And this award goes to Hamatol Raz Shiloah. Now, the location of this program is important. It's in Yafo, Israel. Yafo is an area in Tel Aviv that's a underdeveloped area, and it is a mixed community. It's a mix of Jewish Israelis and Arab Israelis. And what this program provides, it's quite remarkable. They work in 3 daycare centers with infants from 6 months to 4 years, and they work with the families. And they do intensive family work with these really dysfunctional families. And the challenge that they have is to let the families know of their existence very early on so that they can make early contact with these troubled children and troubled families. So they're always communicating with the community so that they can get these kids in as close to 6 months as possible. They also are beginning a training program in conjunction with the Israeli Winnicott Center, and they are also collaborating, again, to make this as multidimensional as possible. They're collaborating with a local college, with the municipality, and with the leading daycare organization in Israel, and they are also actively involved in outcome research. Let me turn this over now to Hamutal Raz Shiloah.
I would first like to thank the committee for awarding us this prestigious prize, which will contribute immensely to our acknowledgement in the community. The Multicultural Center for Parent-Infant Psychotherapy was established in 2016 in Yafo as a non-profit association supported by private donations. We are 4 therapists to provide psychoanalytic-informed parent-infant psychotherapy to a disadvantaged populations of babies at risk, age 0 to 3, and their parents. Israeli, Arabs, and Jews, as well as multinational community of immigrants, migrant workers, and refugees. Therapy is given free of charge in the community, in the natural daily habitat of these parents and their babies, hope gradually earning their trust and cooperation. It is often moving to see how parents who are not used to receiving therapy opens up and make the effort in hope for their children's future. During the past 5 years, we traced and worked with 168 babies and toddlers at risk and their parents in vitro welfare day care centers and mothers in postpartum depression and their babies in municipal postnatal centers called A Drop of Milk. In addition, we are teaching and supervising psychology BA students from the Tel Aviv-Yafo Academic College who escort and emotionally support 2 toddlers along the academic year. I'm very glad to share with you the latest and very exciting news. We were recruited by the Tel Aviv municipality to broaden our activity, and we are currently working with the municipality to establish a pioneering urban setting for emotional therapy at all 15 postnatal centers in Tel Aviv. This innovative service is unparalleled in Israel. Another development that is about to make place in the academic year of 23-24 is that we will open a postgraduate program in psychoanalytic parent-infant psychotherapy at the Israel Winnicott Center. The students will do their clinical training in the new postnatal psychoanalytic treatment centers that we are about to establish in Tel Aviv. Thank you for your faith and support.
I'm very pleased now to announce a special category of awards that we created. We, I mean the IPA administration, and we decided to create a special category of awards regarding the work of our members of IPA in the community, members and chairs, and all the projects that were dedicated to the COVID-19 pandemic and the work psychoanalysts did during this terrible humanitarian crisis that is still an ongoing problem in some parts of the world.
It's a pleasure for me to give the award this year to Umberto Persano for his program, The Integrated Network of Public Mental Health Services of Buenos Aires in the context of COVID pandemic. As you can imagine, we had many applications, and this application had so many special features that it was clear to all the members of the committee that this should receive the #1 award. And what made it special was how extensive their outreach was. As we're going to hear, they utilized a network of 53 hotels and inns and shelters in order to provide a holding environment for those who needed physical space for respite during this. They set up a remote telephone services that were operated 24/7 for emotional contact, for crisis work, for grief work. And they also started podcasts podcasts that gave information and promote well-being to the city of Buenos Aires. And these podcasts were modeled on Winnicott's radio broadcast during World War II, which I thought was a remarkable link to an important part of our past. Many individuals who tuned into the podcast and made telephone contact had their first contact with mental health providers during this crisis. And this also, from the training side, provided the opportunity for many new trainees to work with people in crisis that they never had the opportunity to work with before. So this is to Umberto for he and his community who provided a holding environment for the citizens of Buenos Aires. Umberto, please accept the award.
Many thanks to IPA, especially to this administration who have designed this committee where I am working, and is chaired by Harry Schwartz, and the administration of Virginia Unger and Sergio Nick, give us the possibility to expand our work in psychoanalysis out of the couch and working in psychoanalysis into the community. This awards for us is very important because we are working for many years in the community, especially in the mental health system. Now I am the General Director of Mental Health Services in the Buenos Aires city. It's a big city with around 4 million people and plus 3 million people who come to Buenos Aires every day. The pandemic of COVID-19 was suddenly disruptive for the general population, for people, and we need to make some lines of work in the mental health system. We have created firstly a front line for helping people. When the application of this award was released, we have presented 5,000 phone calls. Now we have 15,000 phone calls for the general population and helping them to coping with anxiety, insomnia, depression. And the other line of work was work with hotels for people who came to Argentina from other countries and need to be isolated. Afterwards, people receive treatment in mental health area from the COVID itself. 15 hotels. We are making a lot of groups of mental health workers. And the third line was to record video podcast for the general population, for the well-being of the people about anxiety, depression, food, children. It was a very amazing work. My partners in this paper was Dr. David Gudnicki, Dr. Adrian Ventura, Victoria Kugler, and Sandra Garcia Taboada, and we made this presentation, and we would like to thank again IPA for these awards. Thank you very much.
Up for the COVID award this year is the Madrid Psychoanalytic Association COVID Crisis Commission. The recipient is Elizabeth Palacios Garcia. And the goal of this program was twofold. The first was to make outreach to the community, and the second was to specifically make contact with frontline health workers. And the way this was accomplished was by designing a very eye-catching, informative, and striking poster. And this poster was put not only in all hospitals and health centers, but also in schools to alert the community to it. And what was important about this is not only the people they reached, but also a new experience of the Psychoanalytic Institute making outreach of a different sort that they had ever made before. This was a new enterprise for them, and in particular, and we have heard this from many people, that the people involved in this, and there were 79 analysts, of which 35 were candidates, the people involved in this were exposed to a different kind of listening to acute crises and acute grief from individuals who were other than their analysans. And that was turned out to be a valuable educational lesson for everybody. With pleasure, let me invite Elizabeth Palacios Garcia to receive the award.
I'm deeply honored to be here today and for the recognition of our work. And I'm thanking you all as coordinator of this project and on behalf of the 79 psychoanalysts that participated in Commission COVID-19 organized in Madrid Psychoanalytic Association during confinement in Spain. These were 5 months of very hard work, not only working with people that were severely having health problems, but with their families, with children, with couples. So this was hard work. We are earnestly grateful to the IPA, especially Virginia Unger and Sergio Unique, and all those that decided to promote community awards within IPA. And in this specific occasion, health awards, including the COVID-19 sub-area. We were moved when we received Harvey Schwartz's letter signaling exactly what we thought were the strengths of our project. We organized the commission in a very brief time, using video calls to help patients and to help people in general, and to help health carers, and phone calls. It gathered colleagues from 2 IPA regions sharing the same language, Spanish, that's Spain and Latin America, and that helped us with clinical understanding and group work for thinking ourselves in this new situation. And this was the first time our psychoanalytic society assisted the community in a social emergency. We had social emergencies in Spain due to terrorist attacks and some other situations, but we are thankful to the Madrid Association Board for being interested in supporting our work. Half of the members, as Harvey Schwartz just said, were members that were trainees. That this was another novelty in our society. Trainees and members of the society working together with one task in mind, that was helping those in need. And now we have a book in print that gathers all this experience. And I want to finish these short words, remembering 1918 IPA Congress in Budapest, Lines in Advance in Psychoanalytic Therapy, where Freud's speech ignited a fire of social justice among analysts, and his commitment was to expand the scope of psychoanalysis after World War I. And these were his words. The vast amount of neurotic misery, which there is in the world, perhaps, need not be. I lament psychoanalysis' inability so far to serve the majority of displaced people after the war. I hope the conscience of society will awake and provide free treatments. This is what we did, as well as material provision to those in need. Analysts would need to face the task of adapting psychoanalytic technique to these new conditions. This was 93 years ago. We did a lot of thinking on how to change our way of listening with the tools we already have from our training and from all our work as analysts. We really hope that we have done a movement further in this direction. And from my point of view, these awards are inspiring in this sense. So thanks a lot once again. on behalf of my colleagues.
Hello, I'm Talia Khatsor, and it has been my privilege for the past 2 years to serve as the chair of the IPA in the community in the field of education. And I'm deeply grateful to Virginia Ungar and Sergio Nick for their remarkable vision in creating IPA in the community that has brought into the foreground and has shed light on the many socially committed psychoanalysts in different parts of the world who are bravely engaging with society's most urgent issues and current crises. This vision is inspiring to many of us who believe in the importance of what psychoanalysis has to offer to society at large. And I'm also deeply grateful to the hardworking, devoted members of my committee. We have had a very special collaboration and productive learning about issues of psychoanalysis in education. Most of the committee members are deeply involved as psychoanalysts in their own societies, in schools and learning institutions with significant contributions, especially during COVID times. Our committee in the field of education includes devoted psychoanalysts all over the world who have been involved in educational institutions, in nurseries all the way to universities, community centers, and even on the streets where parents with their children are, in all places where they are with their developmental needs and struggles to learn in the face of difficult circumstances, while adapting to ongoing crises in different cultures, often under intractable social injustices. These psychoanalysts have been instrumental in helping educators, parents, administrators, and all those who seek to help the most vulnerable of our society to grow and learn. They have been committed to fulfilling, to put it in Winnicott's words, the idea that the child and all learning individuals should only be alone in the presence of another. This year's winners of the IPA in the Community in Education Awards are outstanding examples of this vision. The first prize has been awarded to Laura Ravaioli, Cinzia Carnevali, and Gabriella Vandi from the Italian Psychoanalytic Society for their project titled Adolescents and Migrants, Poetry of Resistance and Play. They have creatively and successfully brought together experts in rap music, wisely understanding the place of rebellion that enables coping and growth, along with psychoanalysts, to reach out to marginalized young refugees in high school, to help them integrate, reduce social prejudice and social anxieties. Their video projects, and there is a wonderful YouTube video about it, have been an uplifting inspiration to what psychoanalysts and psychoanalysis and its understanding of the psyche can contribute to current social crises and the alleviation of human suffering. It is my pleasure to invite Laura Ravaioli to receive the award. Bravo.
Thank you. We thank the IPA for this award and its education committee that recognize our efforts and the efforts of our community. It is a real teamwork. Cinzia Carnevali, Gabriella Vandi, and I are members of the Italian group of European psychoanalysts for refugees that we thank for the support, as well as the executive board of the Italian Psychoanalytical Society. Also, we found a great collaboration with other psychotherapists and psychological society that share a psychodynamic approach, with many local associations that works with migrants, and with the high school and their teachers. But the harder work belongs to the young students, migrants, and refugees. Their ability to integrate to each other and create an artistic group is touching. I invite you to take a look at the video that is published on the IPA website. We believe that adolescents and migrants, poetry of resistance and play is important for the community because it gives the chance to learn the importance of listening to the other, of searching for a deeper meaning of our racism and violence, and for promoting the tolerance of diversity. It also helped to overcome isolation during the COVID-19 lockdown. It was important for psychoanalysis because it gives an image of the psychoanalyst as a person involved in social problems. And we really hope that this project will encourage other colleagues to continue this commitment to community, because there is still much work to do about migration, violence, and violation of human rights, large group ideologies, and we believe that psychoanalysis should have a say in the matter. Thank you.
Runner-up has been awarded to Luca Nicoli and Stefano Tugnoli, also from the Italian Psychoanalytic Society, for their project titled Freud and the Changing World, Psychoanalysis and Contemporary Problems. For the past decade, they have created a feast, a festival of psychoanalysis, a series of seminars dedicated to giving community educators, school teachers, university lecturers, administrators, and more, a know-how to promote an understanding of the complexity and richness of contemporary psychoanalytic thinking and its important contributions to the well-being of the community, its individuals and families. Their keen creative presence in the public arena has shown how psychoanalysis can help to alleviate social afflictions. Bravo.
Hello everybody. We are very honored to receive this award for our outreach project Freud in the Changing World, carried out in Emilia-Romagna region in the northern Italy. Before the pandemic, in the last 10 years, we have carried out several initiatives such as conferences for the general public, seminars dedicated to community educators and school teachers, university lectures, presentation in bookstores with a significant presence on social media. We believe that psychoanalysts need to get out of psychoanalytic centers and institutes in order to realize a real outreach policy, getting in touch with the general public. For this reason, the main goal of Freud and the Changing World is to allow a wide audience to understand and experience the complexity and richness of contemporary psychoanalytic thinking, and to allow potential patients, parents, and general practitioners to consider psychoanalysis as an appropriate treatment for psychic disorders. The good results in terms of participation in our initiatives showed how it is possible to reach the general public effectively and successfully, guaranteeing the quality of the presence of the psychoanalyst out of setting. In the public conference, the specificity of our proposal implies some technical aspects of the outreach session, such as the heterogeneity of the topics covered, the closeness to the public in a specific setting, here and now, in a theater, in a library for 2 hours, the use of no technical language, and, above all, speaking without reading a written text. We believe that speaking off the cuff means not only providing information about psychoanalysis, but also allowing experiential tastings of the psychoanalytic thinking. Thank you so much.
I'm Adrienne Harris, and with Plinio Montagna, we have been directing or chairing the committee on the community and law. And now Ronald Doctor is taking over and he will chair that committee. It's been actually a wonderful experience to sit in this Zoom call and listen to this extraordinary range of projects that are being celebrated and awarded today. I think it gives such an enormous bastion to how psychoanalysis and the community are so intensely and brilliantly and creatively interwoven. So I feel very glad to be part of this group and this community, and it's been inspiring to hear what people have said thus far. The work that we've done in the Community and Law Committee in the last couple of years has been to do a book called Psychoanalysis, Law, and Society, in which a number of the projects that have been talked about were written about in the book. We've written about work in refugee camps. We've done a lot of work on how legal matters and the law interact, distort, complexify family life, adoption, divorce, custody, the nature of the family. We have chapters in the book on climate change, on the work of psychoanalysis in the UN, and on a number of different cultural questions, how caste, class, race in particular, transform, contaminate, and affect psychoanalytic work and subjectivity. So we think of ourselves as quite a broadly focused group, and we think about psychoanalysis and law as having a wide variety of meanings. Maybe, Ronald, do you want to say something about the committee or about the idea of psychoanalysis and the law? And then I'll come back and talk about the prize.
Yes, okay. I've been a member of the Psychoanalysis and Law Committee for the past 4 years under Plinio Montagna and Adrian Harris, and it's been a really great and fun time that I've spent, and I'm also interested and enjoying this whole wider community that I now see. So I'm very pleased to be here. So as Adrian has already said, we edited a book, and we are now planning to edit another book, also on psychoanalysis and law, and in particular with the last year and a half of the COVID-19, which has brought in all sorts of stresses and strains to the whole community, not only to this and the whole world. And I think there'll be many interested contributors to that book, which we are planning. I just want to also say, sort of, as Adrian has said, that there's a lot of interjoining with other communities, with other committees rather, and just I want to mention one, because there is the Committee on Psychoanalysis and Violence with Corinne Min, who is here. And we have talked about trying to coordinate our committees together. Violence and law seem to go together, as well as some of the others. We are both members of another committee, the International Association of Forensic Psychotherapy. And we've thought how we can perhaps bring that in. Perhaps, Corinne, you could perhaps talk when you come to your, since you are the president of that committee. I don't think I have more to say, but I look forward to being the new chair of this committee, and I'm hoping Andrienne and Plinio will still continue to be the members, as it's been a very nice community to work in, committee. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ronald. It's been a wonderful committee to work on. What you said made me want to add one more detail, and it's from an IPA phenomena that I'm also involved in that's not at this meeting, which is Psychoanalysis Today. And we did an interview with Vikram Patel, an Indian psychiatrist, on the pandemic. And what was said about the Israeli project about keeping people out of the hospital made me think of Vikram's video on our Psychoanalysis Today site, in which he said really personality difficulties and mental illness is a comorbidity with and vulnerability to COVID-19. So I think what is being talked about around COVID is very, very relevant. Let me turn to awarding our prize now. We met in October 2020 to consider the submissions for an award and that supports a relevant social and psychoanalytic project. We award the one prize this year to Scott Turner for his project, Law Enforcement, Containment and Reverie, a psychoanalytic endeavor. We felt that the relevance and importance of this topic, particularly at this historic moment, was very, very strong, but we were impressed also with the range and depth of the project, because it brings attention both to the police force in a community being studied and worked with and the members of the community. I speak now as somebody living in America. I cannot imagine a more important project than to begin to try to think about how law enforcement and individuals and legal rights have to coincide. So congratulations to Scott Turner. Thank you.
Hello and greetings from Los Angeles, California. Thank you very much to the IPA and to the Psychoanalysis and Law Committee. I'm honored and humbled by the award. I'd also like to thank my training institute, the Psychoanalytic Center of California, and especially also to the new Center for Psychoanalysis, where I learned much and received quite a bit of support in my training, which is still ongoing. Especially, I'd like to thank the Hayward Police Department and the community of Hayward for this privilege of working with them and listening and learning about policing and the experience of the community with policing, especially in this time of dynamic conflict and tension in the United States and actually around the world. I'm really grateful for the recognition this award brings to the value and the potential for the application of a psychoanalytic lens on the law, on law enforcement, and the dynamic communication between law and law enforcement in local communities. This is, as people know, an historic moment of dynamic tension for law and law enforcement in the United States and in many places around the world. And I, again, am grateful to the IPA and the committee for this award. Thank you again very much.
Thank you very much, Virginia and Sergio, for the honor of speaking on behalf of the IPA Violence Committee. This committee formed in summer 2018, thanks to your initiatives. And since then, we've been busy addressing our broad mandate to contribute with psychoanalytic reflections on societal violence in many of its terrible forms, violence of all kinds against children, young people, women and men, individual and group violence, genocides, terrorism, and other forms of extreme violence. As you all know, exacerbated by this pandemic and the impact of lockdowns and further gross socio-economic injustices amidst other injustices. Our aim is to collaborate with the other IPA committees in the different communities and gradually, through a variety of formats such as further developing webinars, podcasts, statements, papers, books, contribute to the prevention of violence through better understanding, always starting from the premise of the ingredients for violence being within us all. In this vast area, psychoanalysis has so much to offer, examining the interface between the internal world and the impact of the external world. And there's so much to learn from those who've acted out violently, when most of us only dream or think what others sadly go on to do. And looking after perpetrators and victims benefits us all. The submissions this year to these awards were once more all impressive. And we found it again so uplifting to hear of the psychoanalytically informed work carried out in a variety of settings, sometimes in very distressed communities, well and truly off the couch, to use Harvey's podcast series name. But before I announce the winner, I'd like to thank all those who submitted projects and didn't get an award, and encourage them to keep up your amazing and necessary work. I hope very much that many of you will join our International Association for Forensic Psychotherapy that Ronald Doctor in the Politics and Law Committee referred to, in order to strengthen our links with IPA and IPA links with other disciplines within the field of violence and law, and in particular in rehumanizing the dehumanized. But there was indeed one submission that stood out, and that is our IPA Violence Committee Award winner, Gemeinsam stark, strong together. This is a remarkable group intervention for mothers with babies and toddlers who have fled war and dreadful crises situations and arrived in Germany extremely traumatized. And more recently, a group for fathers was also established. These groups, which are added to by home visits, are run by clinicians from different disciplines, all of whom are supervised by psychoanalysts and trained using a curriculum based on psychoanalysis. This project is now also known to many agencies in Germany as a culturally sensitive early prevention, transgenerationally aware, and which reaches out to those who can find it difficult to know where and how to seek help. And it most certainly resonates with the Violence Committee's aim to stress the importance of the first 1,000 days in a baby's life. So congratulations to Corinna Fritzmeier of the German Psychoanalytic Association, who's the project manager, and of course, thanks to her and her team. So over to you, Corinna.
Wow, thank you, Karine. I'm deeply moved, and a big and warm thank you from Berlin. So when in February this year, we heard that we had won the IPA Violence Award, we were really in the middle of a crisis. The pandemic had struck at the core of our psychoanalytically informed prevention project for refugee families from war zone areas. The weekly group meetings for more than 60 refugee mothers and their 0 to 3-year-old children could not take place. How would we be able to continue to be together, to share what can barely be shared anyways, to offer continuity and emotional presence and a reflective space for those persecuted in the mother countries unable to return? Re-traumatized, frightened mothers were supported on the phone and at open windows where we saw pale and depressive looking children. Finally, we started offering online group meetings with 6 mothers and their toddlers each. It helped staying in contact and not losing contact, particularly with a mother who had sought comfort with an Islamistic organization in the beginning of the pandemic. Thanks to the creativity of the team and their supervisor, Bernd Rede. Then in December, our main donor suddenly withdrew their promised funding. The anger that arose led to what became a very productive phase. And in the middle of outlining proposals, we received the news of having won this award. What a recognition and a strong boost for our struggle to continue to reach out to mothers who would never reach out, or whose depression is often overlooked because it is covered by being busy with their youngsters, but who so desperately need secure spaces to speak and to engage with others in the sense of facing ghosts in the nursery in exile and to belong. Me and my team, first and foremost, Lena Shestak, Janina Mena, Rainer and Hilde Rossi, as well as the group leaders, Sophie, Lea, Yasemin, Freya, Khadija, Patricia, Gina, and Nina, Leonie, Senem, and many interns who engaged so lovely with the youngsters, wish to thank Marianne Leutzinger-Buleber and her former Frankfurt team, who have developed the preceding project First Steps, on which we build on. If you're interested, Marianne kindly included our report in the most recent COVID special issue in the International Journal of Applied Psychoanalytic Studies. Thank you also to Tamara Fishman, who supports the project's research component, which will allow us to communicate better to political decision makers why we must and how we can prevent transgenerational transmission of violence in the context of forced migration and persecution. I wish to personally thank Bob Emde and Henry Parents for their inspiring work in the field of early prevention and their personal encouragement, as well as the more than 250 families who, since the beginning of the project in 2012, dared to trust again and shared their precious time in the life of a family with us. Finally, I want to deeply thank Corinne Min and the IPA Violence Committee, not only for the award, but for communicating that they wish our project to be seen and disseminated. Thank you.
The runner-up winner of the IPA Violence Committee is Jorge Tio in Barcelona from the Spanish Psychoanalytic Society. And the project is called Specific Attention to Adolescence from a Community Perspective. And this is a psychoanalytically oriented public intervention with a biosocial perspective and based in community care, providing prevention and treatment interventions for adolescents and links with education, criminal justice, and community youth work. So congratulations to Jorge and his team.
Thank you very much, Corinne, and greetings from Barcelona. We are very grateful for the recognition that we believe is the granting of this award. Working from a community perspective has been our focus since the times of the psychiatric reform in the 80s here in Spain. Throughout all these decades, numerous psychoanalysts in collaboration with professionals from other disciplines have been committed to building a model of mental health care in the public assistance network in Catalonia, as you said, with a biopsychosocial perspective. Despite the economic cuts of the last financial crisis and the medicalizing trends in the mental health care. It is in this context that in our institution, St. Pere Claver Foundation, we have formed different healthcare teams that are integrated into the project of offering a specific attention to adolescents, convinced of the importance of prevention at this stage of life. Different challenges have led us in this effort. On the one hand, the attention to the increasingly prevalent problems in adolescents, violence in its different forms, suicidal behaviors, eating and behavioral disorders, drug abuse, learning problems. On the other hand, attention to the community at a time when Western society is facing important and vertiginous changes. The current situation caused by the coronavirus pandemic adds to the changes of family models, biotechnological revolutions, coexistence of multiple cultures because of large migratory flows, and the undermining of human rights by free market ideology. Therefore, our project intervenes not only in cases where individuals and families need mental health attention, but also emphasizes the work with the educational community, the neighborhoods where the teenagers live, and the professionals of the system of juvenile justice. This is the collaboration that has attracted the attention of the IPA in Violence Committee and led us to a publication of a book titled Adolescencia y Transgresión, Adolescence and Transgression, that is published in Spanish. And we explain our model of intervention in cooperation with juvenile justice. Thank you very much again.
It has been a pleasure congratulating all of you in your well-deserved awards, and we look forward to seeing further results from your ongoing projects and their impact on your communities. To me, this shows how important was Virginia's decision to open this IPA in the community area. It shows how many psychoanalysts, candidates, and psychotherapists work in the communities and the very important impact of their work to their communities. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for joining us today, because it is great to learn more about all your outstanding and amazing projects. Please let me go back in time for 1 or less than 2 minutes. this is a deeply moving moment for me and Sergio, I think, because we are reaching the end of our administration. When we were elected in 2015, we already had a dream, and the dream became a reality. But I'd like to thank you all of you, committee chairs and members of IPA in the community, because of your enthusiasm and your passion that made this dream become a reality. And we were able to see and to make visible through the awards we gave in 2019 and the one we are celebrating today, to make visible what IPA members, analysts in training, and people who are working in the mental health field, what happened when the pandemic started. I think, and we think together with Sergio, that it is a terrible time, it is a tragedy, but it was possible for us to see that IPA in the community is there, ready to help in a time where psychoanalysis is much needed than ever. Thank you very much for your work, your enthusiasm, and your passion.